Everybody. This is the September 2nd, 2021 meeting of the Lower Downtown Design Review Commission. And so I'm officially calling the meeting to order. And as usual, let's start with just a review of the process and options for public comment today. If you're joining by a computer, tablet, or smartphone, you should select the hand raise option when commenting. If you are calling in by phone, you need to email landmark@denvergov.org with your name, phone number, and project that you would like to discuss. And if you are visiting in person, you can visit room 4I5 in the Webb Municipal Building to provide testimony if you can't use any of the other options we just described. So next, I'll go to having each of us introduce ourselves. I'll ask each commissioner to provide their name and what position that they are serving on the commission. And we'll go in alphabetical order. And I will go ahead and call everyone. And start with me in alphabetical order. I am Jane Chrysler. I'm the chair and preservation architect. And next we have Tom.
I'm Tom Sella, general contractor.
And Andy.
Andy Duncan and Key, preservation architect.
Fred.
Fred Glick, and I am a property owner, as I recall. Yes, I'm the property owner slot now. Thank you.
And Jim.
I'm Jim Graebner, downtown resident.
And do we have John yet?
No.
Okay. Then Heather. Welcome back, Heather.
Thanks, Jane. Heather Vasquez Johnson, and I'm the practicing architect.
And Steve.
I'm Steve Weil, and I'm the business representative. Great.
And I would like to officially welcome Heather back. We're glad to have you back. We missed you. You've had a restful few months.
Not really. Number 2 is quite demanding. So that's actually a nice change of pace to be at work.
We'll try to be lively so that you can stay awake. Great. And then, so next on our agenda is the meeting record approval. So I'd like to ask commissioners if you have any comments or clarifications on our August 5th, 2021 meeting record. And if not, would someone like to make a motion?
I move to approve the meeting record of August 5th, 2021.
Thank you, Andy. And Steve, I think you were on mute.
I'll second it.
Perfect. Thank you, Steve. So let's do a roll call vote for the meeting record. Start with Tom.
Aye.
Andy.
Aye.
Fred.
I'll abstain because I was not present.
Thank you, Fred. Jim.
Aye.
Heather.
I also think I need to abstain as I was not present.
Okay. Steve.
Aye.
And Jane. Aye. So motion passes, I believe. We had enough there with 2 abstentions.
That's correct. Yep, we had 5 approval, 2 abstention, and that was Fred and Jane and Heather. Did I get that right? Yep, great.
Can I also just jump in and make a note on the consent agenda item? The COA number is right on there, but it's not right on the staff report. So I just wanted to make you guys aware. I apologize. Please use the number that's on the agenda. That's the correct COA number.
Thanks, Crystal. Okay. which is the great segue into our next item, which is the consent agenda. And as Crystal mentioned, we do have one item on the consent agenda, which is item 2021 COA 377 1428 15th Street. Does anyone have any questions or comments regarding this item, or would you like to pull this item off of the consent agenda? Okay, not hearing any. Is there anyone who would like to offer us a motion?
Sure. Remind me, here we make the motion as per the staff report, correct? We don't just make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
You can make it, you can do either.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
just
move to
usually,
approve the-
usually
to
there's
approve-
just one item, or usually there's multiple items. And so if there's one item, you can do either. If it's two or more items, you have to do the I approve the consent agenda. And also just, I noticed that John has joined us and wanted to say hi to John.
So sorry about that. I had a last minute testing situation this morning, which made me run a little late. So apologies. Nice to see everybody.
No worries.
All right,
And
I
Fred.
move to approve the consent agenda.
is there a second?
Second.
Great. And that, I'm sorry, I missed who the second was. So Fred made the motion and that was Jim that seconded. Awesome. Okay, so, and we do a roll call vote for this as well, right? Okay. Thanks. So let's do that. And we'll start with Tom.
Aye.
Andy,
Aye.
Fred,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
and John, if you're comfortable voting, you are welcome to. Not sure when you joined, but
Yeah, I didn't review it. So maybe from this one, I'll abstain.
Okay.
If that works, okay.
It does. Yes, thanks. And then Heather
Aye.
and Steve
Aye.
and Jane is an aye. So I believe that was 7 ayes and 1 abstention, which means the motion passes. And if there is anyone here attending for the consent agenda, congratulations, and you're welcome to be excused. That concludes that portion of our agenda. All right. And just as we transition, I did want to officially welcome you, John. We're glad to have you.
Thanks all. And again, I will not make a habit of being 5 minutes late for our meetings.
No worries at all. Well, especially with the technology, that's you know, how we roll these days. So, but welcome.
Thank you.
So our next item is our design review agenda. Again, to remind everyone of the process as we move into this, just a reminder that we'll begin with staff is going to make a presentation, which will be followed by an opportunity for commissioners to ask questions. After that, the applicant will have up to 10 minutes to make a presentation at the table. It's 15 minutes if it's an infill project. And that will also be followed by an opportunity for questions by the commissioners applicant. At that point, after that's concluded, members of the public are welcome to comment for up to 2 minutes each. And again, if you're joining by computer, tablet, or smartphone, you just need to select the hand raise option. If you are calling in by phone, you do need to email landmark@denvergov.org with the name and phone number that you're using and the project you would like to discuss. And after that point, staff can offer any clarifications, and then the commission will go into deliberation and will vote on the item. So the first item that we have on our design review agenda is item 2020 CSP 007 amendment with the dairy block. And I believe that is Crystal.
That's correct. Let me see if I can control the screen. Okay, great. So this is a proposed comprehensive sign plan amendment for the existing development called Dairy Block. It's located on an entire city block in lower downtown between 18th and 19th Street, bordered by Blake Street and Wazee, as seen here on the map in red. To the left of the screen are just some existing views of the development, which have proposed signage changes for this amended CSP. So here is the ground floor location plan for all proposed signage. Almost all of the signage is located at the first floor of the building or the ground level. And here you can see some of the changes to the proposed signage CSP circled on this location plan. The applicant is requesting to add a gateway sign at the Blake Street elevation, new upper story sign locations, which you'll see on the next page, new project ID signage locations, which would be at the corners of 19th and Blake and 18th and Blake, and then new joint tenant ID wall signs as well. The sign type legend has also been reordered to show these proposed joint tenant ID signs. So on the right, you can see outlined in orange is the previous sign type legend. So you can kind of see a little bit of the changes here. So on this page, and I apologize, I know it's a little small, but I just wanted to include on the right, the previously approved upper story sign locations. We've condensed it in this amendment to have all the upper story sign locations on one page, which you can see on the left. Let's see. So the previously approved CSP had a total of 3 upper story wall sign locations and allowed a maximum of 2 locations to be used at any one time by major office tenant and the hotel tenant. So this CSP amendment proposes a total of 7 upper story wall sign locations. 4 are added locations. However, there's still a maximum of 2 locations to be used at any one time. And they have changed it to have 1 by the major office tenant be used and 1 be used for the project ID. Some of the new proposed locations have also just been reallocated from previously approved regular wall sign locations. You can kind of see that in the top right where it shows the pink ones. Those were just considered wall sign locations, but not technically upper story previously. That's why they were pink. So you can just see that there, for instance, on that side wall location and then at the alley. Yeah, so let's move on. And I haven't included every page in this. So just kind of the major ones I'm touching on. So those are the major changes. So here you can see the 19th Street hotel elevation. And you can just see to the right is that previously approved one. There was a tenant wall sign that was allowed and they've changed that and reallocated it to have an upper story sign, which you can see to the left. So basically it's just been moved up on the building and is a potential location. But again, the new upper story wall sign locations, although there are 7 proposed total, only 2 can be used at any time. So here you can see the Blake Alley elevation. This is one of the locations where a new proposed sign type is a gateway sign. They've also added an upper story sign location you can see in yellow. So these are pretty close to each other. So we did have a note that either the gateway sign or the upper story sign is allowed to be used, but not both at any one time, as that would be a little bit overkill signage and wouldn't meet the design guidelines. So here you can see that Blake Street elevation. The applicant has added 2 additional joint tenant wall sign locations to the CSP. joint tenant ID signage is looked at differently in the zoning code. So that's why we broke it out as joint tenant wall sign. And that's why we reordered the sign type legend. So here you can see on the left is the previously approved, and then on the right is the new proposed. We've also added kind of a note to show this new gateway sign, which is basically like a projecting sign almost, as it won't touch the other side of the alley, and it's not allowed to due to the zone lot line being there. So that's why we did add this detail to show how it'll hang over the alley entrance. And in purple, you can see that proposed joint tenant wall sign as well. And then here's the Windsor Dairy Building elevation. There's a small change on this as well. At the bottom, you can kind of see the approved one outlined in orange again. So we've kept the previously approved pink chimney kind of sign location, which is set back. They have removed one of the previously approved wall sign locations and moved it to this brick area that connects to an alley, and this is near the alley entrance. So they just gave up one to move it over to that side. And then to the left, you can see a projecting sign location at the corner of, I think, 19th and Blake Street. That was a previously approved tenant location. They've just changed it to be for project ID. And then lastly is the sign allowance table, which we've made some changes to just to add clarity. So here you can see we've really just had them list out that the major tenant gets so many signs, you know, one upper story wall sign. Project ID gets 2 signs per elevation with a total of 8. And then the joint tenant ID signage is also listed below that, because as I said previously, it does kind of come from a different bucket in the zoning code. So we wanted to make it really clear what they get. So they would get 3 joint tenant ID wall sign locations, and then they do have that existing 1 ground sign at this site. So we've added that clarity in there to just say that. We also, in the CSP, but I didn't put it here, added a historic signage page just to show that the historic signage that exists on this block will stay in perpetuity. So there's no other changes with the CSP, and all of these changes do meet our design guidelines. Therefore, staff is recommending approval. That's it.
Great, thank you, Crystal. Are there questions for Crystal from the commissioners? Okay. Since they're very thorough, Crystal. In that case, I'd like to invite the applicant to unmute themselves and let you know that you have up to 10 minutes to make a presentation. You don't have to use all of it, but you're welcome to. And
here's the trick. None of the people that Crystal told us were joining the meeting are not here, but there's one phone number that is here. So to the phone number, I'm going to unmute you and let you chat and tell us if you are not part of this presentation, because then I'll just meet you back up again. So let me, all right. So I think you can hit, I think it's *6 to unmute. Hi, are you part of this?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm waiting for a sports column.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks. I'll put you back on mute. Thanks. Okay, I'm not sure what to do then.
Me neither. I send it to them, so.
Could we
Send it
just
to
move on
them
to
and Fran.
deliberation?
yeah, I would think that we probably just need to move to deliberation if there's no one here to speak on behalf of the applicant.
And maybe move to public comment. How's that?
That sounds great. So yeah, if there is any public comment for this, let us know.
Use the hand raise function. And considering that all of the names that are here of attendees are people who are for the next project, I'm guessing that's no, but no one has raised their hand yet. So
Ask. Okay. And Jen, if the applicant does appear while we are deliberating, are we able to go back and allow them to speak, or is this their only opportunity? Do you
I
know?
believe this is their opportunity. If you have questions and they appear, you can ask them questions.
Okay, that makes sense.
Hi, this is Adam. It really is up to the chair. If they show up, you can reopen the, well, this isn't a public hearing, but it's up to you and your discretion on whether you would want.
I'm
to.
sure it sounds like we could ask them the question of is there anything they would like to add? And please do it in less than 10 minutes. Okay, thank you, Adam. So yeah, at this point, and I would say staff, please let us know if somebody does appear, but otherwise let's go ahead and deliberate. And yeah, so I'll open it up to commissioners if you have any comments or thoughts you'd like to share, and we'll start with Fred because I see your hand up.
I just want to say thank you to Crystal for a really clear presentation. I mean, I really appreciate on a modification like this that's what you focused on, and love the fact that you had the images to help us figure out what the changes were. I really appreciate the work that you put into that. It makes it very easy for us to do our job. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you, Fred and Crystal. Any other comments?
Jane, I'll jump in. I think that this is all reasonable modifications and allowances and meets the guidelines. I agree with staff, so.
Great, thank you, Heather.
Yeah, maybe jumping in, I would say the same. I think there doesn't seem to be a change in terms of number of upper story signs in particular, just some additional flexibility in locations. The locations feel appropriate. So I'd also be in agreement with staff in terms of the recommendation.
Great. Thank you, John. Any other comments or thoughts?
If there are no more comments, Jane, I'll happy to make a motion.
Sounds great.
Okay, I move to recommend approval of application number 2020-CSP-007- amend to the zoning administrator for the comprehensive sign plan amendment for 1800 Wazee Street as per design standards and guidelines related to signage, presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report.
I'll second.
Thank you, Heather, for the motion and Fred for the second. And unless there are any further comments or amendments, we'll move to do a roll call. And as always, start with Tom.
Aye.
Andy,
Aye.
Fred,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Heather,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
and Jane is also an aye. So the motion passes unanimously, which then will allow us, so thank you. I guess we'll thank Crystal and please pass on our thanks to the applicant. So moving to our next project, that is 2021 COA 376 1930 Blake Street, and looks like we have Jesse presenting.
Hey there. So this is 1932 Blake Street. There is an existing rooftop porch currently on the building. The Lower Downtown Design Review Commission reviewed a proposal for rooftop deck extension on June 3rd, 2021. and approved it with conditions. And the condition was that the roof deck would be set back 15 feet. The commission then approved the application, and the applicant has since altered their application request to include a parapet extension and a deck expansion. So this is the application that you're reviewing today. Okay. It's not letting me change slides. Okay, hold on. There we go. All right, so pictured here are the existing conditions on the deck. You can see in the top left corner, this is the existing deck. I will note that this deck is forward more than 15 feet from the front wall of the building. And this was allowed to accommodate an ADA access point on the building. But during the last review of this project, the commission requested that any new expansion be stepped back 15 feet. So this is the previous submittal. So here you can see the rooftop deck expansion, and it was only set back, I believe, 9 feet from the front wall of the building. So now this is the current proposal for the rooftop deck and parapet extension. The applicant is now requesting to expand the existing rooftop deck from 31 feet 3.5 inches by 100 feet 3 inches to 57 feet 4.5 inches by 109 feet 0 inches. The deck expansion will be 1'7" from the parapet extension. That would be the inside wall of the parapet extension. The deck expansion will have a 43-inch metal and glass railing and will feature a decking material to match the existing decking material. So pictured here are 3-dimensional drawings as well as a section drawing. The applicant is requesting to extend the brick parapet wall on the front of the building, so the northwest elevation, 1 foot 4¼ inches, as shown in the section drawing on this page. The parapet extension will feature a salvage brick. The applicant is also requesting to install a new RTU and a 6-foot screening fence at the back of the building, as shown in the section drawing on this page. It is unclear what the proposed fence material will be, as the roof plan notes that states that a steel and composite slate, or I'm assuming they meant slat fence, while the section drawing detail states that the fence will feature steel 2 posts and 2x6 horizontal cedar slats. Staff will need clarification on this material for the fence. So pictured here is the existing brick on the building. We have an overall view and a close-up view showing that brick. And then to the right, you see the proposed salvage brick that they will be using. Dimensions for the existing and proposed brick have not been provided, so it's unclear how closely these materials will match in size. Additionally, the proposed salvage brick has a rough texture. It almost looks like it's falling in places, and it doesn't appear to match the texture of the existing brick. So staff will need additional information on the proposed brick material. So staff is recommending a denial of this application because the proposed parapet will extend, because the proposed parapet wall extension will alter the appearance of the front of the building, citing guidelines 1.1.1 and 1.1.4. The proposed brick expansion is set back 1 foot 7 feet from the front wall of the building and is not visually subordinate, citing guidelines 1.4.1 and 1.4.2. And then finally, staff will need a clarification on the proposed screen fence material and the brick material, citing guideline 1.1.5.
Great. Thank you, Jesse. Questions for Jesse? And it looks like Fred, you've got your hand up.
One just point of clarification, Jesse. I didn't see in the application any text from the applicant. And so, and that brick, frankly, with the core holes does not look like salvage brick to me. So I was wondering where it came from that that's salvage brick. Is there a note somewhere I missed or?
No, I had asked the applicant to provide a cut sheet for the proposed brick. Typically, we require the manufacturer name and the brick finish or the brick style. That information wasn't provided. Only this photograph was provided, so I assumed that it was salvage brick, but I can let the applicant speak more so on the brick material.
That'd be great, because it sure doesn't look like salvage to me with the core holes and the Sharpie numbers on it. Anyway, thank you.
Any other questions for Jesse?
You know, I'm curious about something. I mean, the staff clearly is rejecting because it violates various guidelines. Have there been exceptions in this kind of matter ever?
Not on any projects that I have overseen with the LDDRC, but this is also the first parapet extension that I've encountered. I can't really answer to that. Jen may be able to answer if she knows of any past exceptions to these specific guidelines, but I can't answer that.
But
I don't
yeah,
recall any.
right. So that's pretty telling right there. Thank you.
Any last questions for Jesse? Okay, thanks again, Jesse. So now we'll invite the applicant to unmute themselves, and just as a reminder, you'll have up to 10 minutes to make a presentation. And if you're able to respond to any of the questions or comments that you just heard from commissioners, that's also appreciated, but we will also have an opportunity to ask questions of you when you're done presenting. Applicant, if you could also be sure to please provide your name and address for the record when you speak.
And also the person who's on the phone, you can start, you're allowed to unmute yourself. I've just hit *6, I think. If you're here for the applicant, if you're here for public comment, hold that for a minute or a few minutes.
Yeah, so whoever wants to lead off for the applicant, you're welcome to present.
You just have to unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Okay,
Jennifer,
hello.
I was going to say, that's
yeah,
Russell. I didn't know if he was off the phone.
Yes, good morning. My name's Russell Ely. I'm the architect. And to answer your questions, our intent is to get a brick that matches the texture. The existing facade is currently painted. If you were to look back at some of those old photographs of the brick, the actual whole face of the building has been painted, including the grout joints. And so we want to repeat that and do our best to match both texture and color, and just make it all blend in. Our goal is to make it blend in. We're emulating the design of what was done next door at 1920 Blake Street at Hayter's Bar and Grill. They raised their parapet up. They also did a glass and steel rail, and so we're pretty much carrying that same look across. And as Hayter's, their deck is 1'7" back from the parapet wall. So we're pretty much emulating what was done over at Hayter's. And also, as you can, if you look at my street, I'm sorry. From the street level perspective view, you can see how much you see of the guardrail. And I think I have some photographs that I provided that also shows what you see from the street level up at the building, and how the patio itself is pretty much screened or from view. Can I answer any questions?
Yeah, thanks. So yes, we'll open it up to commissioners that have any questions for the applicant.
You know, you mentioned this other neighboring building. Do you have photographs there? Because I don't see any of that in the application.
Well, it shows in my 3D image that's on the screen now, and some of my photographs should have shown it as well.
Could I jump in? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, my name is Francois Safadine. I'm the owner of the project. And to answer the question that you just asked, basically look at the street level perspective view, which is number 9. If you look at it, to the left of the metal tower is sport column. To the right of the metal tower is haters. So that's exactly what it looks like. That's what it is right now. And we're trying to blend it in by matching what they did on the other side of the tower. So if you want a picture of haters, that's really where it is, as you see it right now on number 9.
Other questions for the applicant?
May I jump in? My name is Brad Mansky. I work for Francois Safadine and represent his interests in the operations of these buildings. May I talk?
Sure, you had some time left on your
Okay.
clock, so sure.
Earlier in the committee's conversation, you talked about, is there any other locations throughout the area that has these parapets and all the way to the storefront? And certain 1920 Lake Street, which is Haters, has all their rooftops directly to the storefront. 1410 Market Street, 1435 Market Street, 1400 Larimer, and many others. So this has been approved in the past, and I understand that may or may not have been before some of your committee time with the committee, but there is a lot of locations that have parapets all the way to the street and their rooftops.
And we have sent you an email that shows pictures of those parapets and then the rooftops being all the way to the edge of the building. We send an email with the addresses and pictures of those buildings. And I've been in Denver since 1989. And I've done a lot of projects. In fact, one of the buildings that I have does have the parapet and the rooftop all the way to the edge. So I apologize if some of you maybe live new to the board, but this is something that I've seen many times in the city, and we send you an email that shows those these projects. One of the hardest things to do as an owner is really to go into a project and it costs so much money to build these rooftops, and when you chop up 15 feet off of it because it's something that works for you guys, it gives us a disadvantage to compete with other people when they do have the ability to use the full rooftop and they go all the way to the edge. So what we're asking you to do is really to accommodate us by giving us an advantage just like everybody else. We're going to spend money on building that rooftop, and taking 15 feet out of the equation is a huge chunk of the business, 1, and 2, it just it's not as inviting for the customer. Now, in terms of the brick and matching the brick, as the architect mentioned, these are going to be painted brick to match the building. We're not putting new brick to match an old brick. We're going to make it exactly what it is right now, which is painted. That's why in the pictures it doesn't match it exactly. It's because it doesn't matter. It has to match in terms of shape and in terms of size. And then after that, it's going to get painted to match the color of the painted wall that exists right now.
Thank you.
Do you guys have the email that we sent you that has the addresses and the pictures?
Are you asking the commissioners?
Yes.
Because we have the packet of information that staff provided that includes all of the information that you provided as part of your application.
Mia, did they get that? Did they get the email? Because it doesn't seem like they have the email that shows those locations. Otherwise,
I'm forwarding it to Jesse right now.
If I can step in really quickly, the only email that I've received with a different address and photograph indicating a parapet was for haters, and that was on July 8th. And that's the only email that I have that references any other property.
We have photos in the inbox that just came in, but we can't share new information with the commission at this point.
you cannot.
No, everything had to be in by the day that it was posted on the website, which was last week, last Thursday.
No problem. I mean, if we have to come meet this, do this another meeting and delay this project another 6 weeks or 8 weeks, we're gonna do it. But I'm gonna tell you this right now. We're not gonna accept the 15 in because everybody else doesn't have that. And if it requires us to go further in front of a judge to decide on this, we're gonna do that. We're just not gonna accept somebody in your office because you guys have lack of knowledge about what other projects in downtown Denver. That's your job. Your job is to know what everybody else has. And for you guys to say that you've never seen anything like it, it's absurd. That's your job. That's what you do for a living.
So, sir, with all due respect, the examples that you provided us are all projects that were either not approved by us and therefore are illegal, and we can ask our inspector to go out and enforce on those, or they were done before the current set of design guidelines. And so
they've been there for years.
And they may not have been approved and may not have been noticed that they were approved, that they were done. So all projects have to go through permitting.
You guys do whatever you need to do. I'm just telling you this. We're not going to accept the 15. We didn't accept it the first time. We're not going to accept it again. And if we have to go in front of a judge to do this, we will do that. You guys want to waste your time and our time and people's money, we'll do that. But we're not going to accept the 15 in because it's an absurd rule that you guys, it doesn't make sense because we're not building a building. We're not doing anything. It's just basically we want to be able to use the rooftop to the edge of the building. So you guys make a decision, but regardless what decision you make, we're not gonna just settle in and accept the 15. I'm just telling you that right now. So you guys decide quickly, and then we'll just go the next step. We'll just go in front of a judge. That's why they have courts in the system, because that way you guys, if you're being unreasonable, then we just go a different route. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Are there any other questions, or Jesse, do you have a?
Yeah, I have staff follow-up. I will look into the other addresses listed by the applicant. I will certainly look into the applications or the photographs that the applicant has just submitted to our inbox, and we'll follow up with our findings on that. As Jen stated, some of those may be violations. The other one that I did want to comment on was Haters, which is 1920 Blake Street. We do have an approval on file. This was done administratively in error by a staff person that is no longer with us and is not something that that meets our guidelines clearly and cleanly as shown. And it was not reviewed by the LVDRC, which is required. However, this is already done. An approval has been issued for that. And we can't, I as staff can't go back and pull that COA out of approval. However, as a staff person, I do have to follow the guidelines, and that was my recommendation to the applicant, was based on those guidelines. So that's why I'm bringing it to the commission today, that it doesn't really meet the guidelines. Sir, your time is up, so you can't speak any longer. They're in deliberation. I'm doing staff recap.
We didn't use over 10 minutes.
You did, sir.
Yeah, we did.
Yes. Jenna, if you wouldn't mind moving him back over to.
Well, we still have the time for questions for the applicants.
These are questions for the applicant. I can't ask Jesse a question.
Yeah.
So everybody's referring to haters, and I've blown up all of this application, and I don't see a building that says hater. So is that
It's
here?
1920 Blake Street. It's not in their application, although I did tell the applicant to include photographs in their application. The photographs that they provided were of the building itself. They do have the opportunity to include adjacent structures as well if they'd like to, but they did not include that in their application.
Well, and I think just remind the commissioners that, we're evaluating the project that is in front of us today with the guidelines that we have today. So it's good contextual information. We need to know what, is around the building, but that, ultimately we're evaluating what is proposed in front of us today. So are there any other questions for the applicant? I didn't mean to cut you off, Steve. Okay, so with no more questions for the applicant, then I need to ask for public comment. I'm sorry. Is there anyone from the public who would like to comment on this application? And if so, please be sure to provide your name and address for the record.
I don't see anyone raising their hand, and everyone who is on the call is for this project.
Okay. So with no public comment, it is time to go into commissioner deliberation. And if we have any additional questions for the applicant, we will let you know and be sure to ask you. So yeah, who would like to, looks like Fred, you've got your hand up, so I can start with you.
Thank you. I have to say, when this application, when I first saw this application, I was baffled, I guess is the way I would put it. I think that the discussion and the deliberations at the previous application were pretty clear. I thought that the conditional approval gave very clear guidance, and this came through with this revised application is so clearly in contrary to the guidelines that I was rather surprised they bring it. I guess the applicant's statement here today makes clear that he doesn't think the guidelines should apply to his project, and I guess that's unfortunate. But I don't see any path to supporting this application today. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred.
Jane, I would second what Fred has said. I think that, kind of based on the information that we were provided, unfortunately, as Jesse and Jen noted, we can't approve or consider items that weren't included in the packet or that haven't had time to kind of be vetted by staff. I don't see a way in the guidelines that justifies approving this project as it's been presented. I do want to point out an item that I take a little bit of issue with. and kind of feel like maybe there's some incompleteness in the package as well. Even if this was something that was kind of able to be reviewed as it is, looking at the photographs of the building and compared to the renderings that they've shown, it appears that they're modifying the brick that sits at the base of the metal tower as well. And that's not really shown clearly in the drawings, either as kind of modifications to that or details on that. And so that is something that I would suggest, if this is something that we feel like we can consider after staff has done some review of those other properties that the applicant has suggested, that is something that I think needs to be addressed prior to any kind of re-review on the project.
May I speak?
Yes.
I'm looking at this image that it says mechanical screen detail 6 and guard detail 2. And I just want to make sure I understand this because it's not clear. It appears that they're extending the parapet to match what's in front of the metal tower and to the right as you're looking at the image. Is that what you guys see or not?
Steve, I agree. I think they're trying to match what's to the right of the tower. But if you look at the photographs of the building that the applicant provided, I think it's in what was labeled as part 2 on the applicant's documents. If you look at the photographs on there, the second photo, there's a pretty significant difference in the brick condition at the base of the metal tower that hasn't been addressed in this packet that I think needs to be.
Well, it appears to me we don't have full disclosure here, and I don't see how we can make a decision. I don't know if I have agreement here. I think it needs to be tabled and additional research done by staff and better documentation. The other problem that troubles me is the guidelines talk about context, and it troubles me that that this very same thing was done elsewhere, right or wrong, and that I think that's a legal issue, which I don't fully understand, and I think maybe Adam should comment because it's clearly not a black and white situation.
Steve, I have to completely disagree with you. I think the application is reviewed by the staff is completely on point. I think we're in clear violation of both guidelines 1.41 in design context. This is altering a historic building in a historic district that is going to change the interpretation of the building. And I think guideline 1.42 setbacks also shows the details up to the front of the building where it clearly needs to be set 15 feet back from the front of the parapet. I don't think we need any more information than what is already in the packet. It doesn't fit guidelines. It's not approvable. I think Fred was right on track when he said that we'd given clear direction with conditional approval back in June. This application basically says that guidelines don't apply to me. I'm going to do my own thing because it's been done before. And as Jen has stated, that the building next door was approved. However, it was approved and it shouldn't have been. And just because it was done in the past, this is a new commission, does not mean that we need to continue this forward with a similar approval with a similar project when it clearly does not meet guidelines.
Andy, let me say, well said, and I appreciate your point. I just wish this were a cleaner situation, quite frankly. And I think there's also something to be said for establishing a precedent, and the precedent would be this shouldn't be allowed.
Other comments? I'll just add that I agree with others who have spoken, that I don't at this point see a path forward to getting this proposal approved based on the guidelines that we're working with today, and that we don't have a guideline that says if someone else has done it, it's okay to do it. So based on the guidelines, 1.1.1, 1.1.5, 1.4.1, and 1.4.2, the current proposal as submitted doesn't meet those, in my opinion.
Can I make a motion?
Yes.
I move to deny application 2021 COA 376 for the extension of the parapet wall and rooftop deck expansion at 1930 to 1932 Blake Street per design guidelines 1.1.1, 1.1.4, 1.1.5, 1.4.1, 1.4.2, presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report.
Thank you, Fred. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Andy. Unless there's a comment or amendment, let's do a roll call and begin with Tom.
Aye.
Andy,
Aye.
Fred,
Aye.
Jim, I didn't hear that, Jim.
Aye.
Oh, thank you. John,
Aye.
Heather,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
and Jane is also an aye. So the motion passes unanimously and the application is denied. Okay. So that, oh, Jesse, yes, sorry.
Just one real quick question. Do you all want me to look into the other addresses listed and follow up with you, or would you prefer this just to be handled by staff, researched, and then if there are violations, follow up accordingly?
I mean, Jesse, I think we've denied the application as it stands, so I don't know that we necessarily need any follow-up unless it comes back to us.
I just wanted to make sure.
Does seem like a staff matter to follow up and understand if there are violations. But I don't know that we don't need to be part of that.
All right, just wanted to make sure since there was discussion on it.
No, appreciate that, Jesse.
Is this an appropriate time for a question?
I guess it depends on the questions. But go ahead.
So, I mean, this is kind of an unusual situation in that there was an approval that shouldn't have been made. And I just would like a firmer grasp on what our position should be. And I kind of adjusted my position after hearing Andy. My feeling is we have guidelines. Our job is to follow them, and maybe that's all we need to know.
So when something is done, if there was a staff error in an approval, and maybe Adam can help me out on this to verify what I'm saying, but it's my understanding that there can, well, Adam, how does this work?
Yeah, let me jump in.
Thank you.
I don't know if we need to be discussing if there was an error or not. I think the issue is that there was a staff approval that didn't come to the commission. I think that's all we know at this point. So I'm a little uncomfortable saying that something was approved in error or anything like that, unless we see that the approval said this item did not meet the guidelines and I am still approving this administratively. Again, I think we just need to deal with the project we have at hand. The project next door was approved, it was completed, and that's about all we can really deal with at this point. We could not revoke that approval and force that owner to remove things because they did have an approval, they acted on it, and that's about it. So I hope that possibly answers the question being asked.
Thank you.
Sure.
So based on our agenda, it does not appear that we have any business items. We didn't have any listed discussion items, but if there are any other, questions or items that anyone wants to discuss, I guess now is the time.
Had a couple things I just wanted to share, mention to you all. One of them, it occurred to me that some of you may not be getting the Landmark newsletter. We sent out a newsletter. It used to be quarterly, and this year, because we've had so many exciting things going on, it has been maybe once a month, every other month type of thing. I was just talking with the chair of the LPC yesterday, and she's like, I've never seen the newsletter. So it occurred to me, I should ask you all. If you all would like to sign up for the newsletter, let me know, and I'll send you the link to sign up for that. And yeah, so I'll send the link out. You guys can sign up at your choice on that. The headline for the newsletter yesterday was that we are going to be updating the design guidelines for Denver landmark structures and districts. So that's not the LODO guidelines, but the general design guidelines, because there are a lot of challenges with those guidelines that we've faced, and we want to get community input, because we've gotten a lot of community input over the years about how there's things that need to be fixed. So we're kicking off that process. It'll be a multi-year process, and hopefully we'll have the LODO design guidelines follow suit as well, but just wanted to let you guys know that that's going on for us. The other thing is that Emily realized that the LPC portion of the website and the LDDRC portion of the website are slightly different in how it mentions staff or commissioners. So the LPC version has a short bio for each person that each commissioner has written. And for the LDDRC, it has nothing about you guys. And we thought it might be nice to have you guys write a little paragraph bio of your expertise and your background. So we are going to be sending that request out, but didn't want it to just have you wonder why that was coming to you. Those are my two items. Did I miss anything, Emily? Cool.
No, that's perfect. I'll probably send something out today. Mm-hmm.
Just a small thing that came up yesterday at planning board was the discussion about when we're really going back in person. And it sounds, and I assume that we're under the same regime as planning board, but there's discussion that we're not really maybe aiming for October anymore, but it's being discussed.
I suspect that's the case. Yes, so I have not heard any updates on when we have technology that is in, but we're also monitoring what's going on with the Delta variant caseloads and things like that. And so we want to make sure that our commissioners and the public are safe, and staff, of course, are safe and so trying to make sure that public health requirements and also our technology are coinciding. So we were talking about October for in-person. It's September 2nd, and so that seems very unlikely at this point, because we have not heard that our technology is ready.
And the other thing that came up was a little bit of a discussion about doing away with providing access for public comment in person at the web building. Planning board had some statistics about how infrequently that has been used and what an incredible burden of staff time it is, and acknowledging that there are alternatives for people who may not have their own internet service to simply go to a library, for example, and use the internet there. So that was something that was on there, and that I certainly supportive of, because I think staff has a lot on their plate already, and to spend the kind of time that it seems to take to set up public comment at the web building doesn't seem like a tremendously great use of staff time to me.
Yeah, I hadn't been aware that conversation was happening with planning board, but you are correct that we have, I don't think we've ever had anyone come in for public comment except for the La Alma Lincoln Park Historic Designation that came in through LPC. I don't think we've had anyone do public comment. Maybe once for LDDRC. And I think it was an item that was on consent, so they didn't actually talk, they just came and listened. So it's pretty rare in a year.
Okay. Anything else before we adjourn? Because otherwise, thanks everybody, and I'll say we're adjourned.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thanks all.
staff.
Great to be a part of it and meet you all, at least virtually, those that I haven't met before. So enjoyed to and I'll enjoy moving forward with you.
Yeah, thank you. And let's hope we get to meet you in person.
Yeah.
Terms start expiring.